Welcome to Free Range Flock. We were once the latchkey kids who came home to an empty house after school. We were feral, resilient, cynical, and innovative. Older than Google. Our teenage faces were never posted on social media. The internet was just an idea in our youth. Now we are older, wiser, and thriving. Our independent ways will continue to serve us. We plan to keep defying the odds, and we will carve our own path. With grace, with humor, with joy. Our way. We've been through some stuff. We will continue to keep pushing, and we are not going anywhere. The former latchkey kids are now the free range flock.
When someone starts midlife that we have all these expectations about what it's going to be like. But sometimes life has other plans. Things happen in our life that make our priorities realign with great urgency. So for this episode, we want to talk to our friend Don Owens. He's a fellow free ranger who experienced a sudden change in his life that changed the way he lives today. I cannot wait for you to meet him. So we're here today with Don Owens. Don, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. My name is Don Owens. I was born and raised in southwestern Virginia, in Roanoke, Virginia specifically. And I live here in Greensboro with two wonderful children, Anderson, 8, and Amelia, 10, and my wife, Erin. For my job, I'm a mortgage professional, which I've been doing for over 20 years.
So just full disclosure, I've met Don before. Our kids went to the same preschool. And so we've done a lot of activities and when it comes to our kids were young, our kids were young or younger. So, yeah. So, Don, what does your midlife look like right now? I know that you're a fellow free ranger. So what does it look like right now?
Well, I'm the happiest and healthiest I've ever been. I have a wonderful family and have had a great career in the mortgage business, as I said before. And, life is good. I treat every day as a gift.
That's awesome. That's lovely. So what shaped your viewpoint when it comes to midlife? What helped you? Because every one of us is coming to it differently. So what shaped yours?
Like most people, I've had challenges to overcome along the way. As a child, my family moved from one place to another. School was challenging because we were never in one place long enough to really get a good education. We spent time in foster care and experienced periods of homelessness. As an adult, later on, I had a near fatal brain hemorrhage when my kids were very young, and I fought like hell to make sure I didn't leave them without a father. So, through all this, I somehow managed to remain determined to live the best life I can. Quality friendships, travel, music, all of this has helped fuel much of that determination.
So, you and I are not close, but I am Facebook friends with you, and I see all these great images on your Facebook of all these great travels and music, and I'm just like, wow, he's living his great life. So travel is really important to you, Don.
Yes, it is. I used to say when I was in my 20s that I wanted to live life through experiences. I wanted to travel as much as possible, and it was through those experiences that I really gained a lot of confidence in myself. I drove across the country, camped my way through national parks from one coast to the other many times, and in doing that, spending weeks and months by myself in different areas of the country, I really just gained a lot of confidence and really centered myself.
So do you play a musical instrument?
Yeah, I've been playing guitar. I got a long time, actually, half my life. More than half my life. I got my first guitar in 1984, and I've played in front of many thousands of people over the years.
That's something that you and Sarah share. So Sarah, talk about that a bit.
Well, I just wrote a little note that said music because I play ukulele. I've not been playing nearly as long as you, but I've been involved in music in one way or another since I was a kid. My mother was the choir director at a church, and so I started singing when I was 4. And I've done musical theater and choirs and all kinds of stuff over, since I was a little kid. But music, because I do have that experience, I know how deeply it can make you feel. And I imagine just the different things that you were talking about, experiencing homelessness, the brain injury, just the ups and downs of life. How does that translate into your music?
Well, I had a passion early on for the lyrics in music, and music as a tool to basically help bring out emotions, whether it's happy feelings or sadness or whatever it was. And I think music can be a very incredible tool to dig deeper into your soul and let your emotions shine.
I would agree. I think that as well, it's a great communicator. It breaks down a lot of barriers. You might not be able to communicate in the same way but music can sometimes bridge gaps that just words can't. So,
absolutely,
that's interesting because I find that now that I'm in my 50s, that I experience emotions differently now. I feel things very differently now. When I was younger, I was so worried about having the right emotional response at the right time, and don't let people see you cry and that kind of thing. Now it's different. Now I'm like, forget it. This is what I'm feeling right now. I'm going to feel it. I'm going to dig deep into it and just go with it. How are you responding to emotions now, Don?
I embrace them. How I feel is how I feel. What other people think doesn't matter. It doesn't. People get so wrapped up in, how it's going to come across, how, what are other people going to think? What are they going to say behind my back? None of that matters to me at all. It doesn't matter. What matters is how I feel. That matters. And suppressing that, with any human, suppressing how you really feel or how your emotions, push and pull you along the way, that just, creates mental issues and trauma.
I would agree 100%. I think that really when we're younger, we don't have that knowledge. And Amy and I have had multiple conversations about the fact that as we age, as we, become like a fine wine, we realize that what is important is those emotional connections that we hold close to us, and other people's opinions really don't make any difference at all.
Well, it also makes you a sincere person rather than, a fake. And our society is filled with fakes. So I absolutely believe we should be sincere, be real, be who we are, and just let it shine.
So one of the things that Don and I share is we both have young kids. So my child is 11, so Amelia's 10. How do you teach that lesson to Amelia? Because my son has these emotional reactions, and I know he's worried about what friends are reacting to, but I want him no, be honest with yourself. If you talk about it, articulate it. How are you conveying this to your kids?
The same. We really encourage them to be themselves, and we help boost up their confidence as much as we possibly can. Amelia, she's 10 years old, but 2 days a week she's in Taekwondo. 2 days a week she's doing weight training, so she's strong and she's determined to just to win at these things, and excited when she accomplishes something like she just got to the next belt level in Taekwondo, and she's excited about it.
They're at that age where they're so worried about what their friends are thinking, and it's starting to really ramp up because with 10 and 11 they're in that tween stage, and they're worrying too much about it. And sometimes I really have to Jules, okay, if you've got to walk away for a second and come back, but I really want to know what's happening and what you're thinking. And yeah, it's just something that I didn't get when I was young, and I want him to have that.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you. Erin, my wife, is just so wonderful about doing that with my daughter, especially. My son and I spend more time together, and my wife and my daughter spend more time together. But collectively as a family, we help each other.
Another thing that I love about seeing your Facebook posts is your love of travel. And I also love travel, but my wallet does not love travel right now. Just be honest with you. So I'm trying to instill that love of travel and that ability to travel and be adaptable, because that's what travel teaches you. It teaches you to anything can happen, and you got to be ready for what it is, and it's embrace what happens. And it's not just about where you're going, it's the journey as well. So can you talk a bit about your love of travel?
Well, absolutely. It for me, experiencing life through enjoying life through experience is the better way to put it. Is it's good for me. It makes me happy. It makes my kids happy. My wife. As far as the budget is concerned, I found out a long time ago, if I do little 3 or 4 day trips to southern Utah, which I do just about every year. Sometimes I go twice a year. I pay for the plane ticket, and I take my backpack. I pick up a little bit of supplies at the grocery store, and I camp for free out in the national parks. I mean, it literally doesn't cost anything other than a couple dollars for the permit. And so, rather than spending a couple $100s a night in hotels and that kind of thing, or, living the high life in Paris, I'm out in the middle of the desert, just, looking at the amazing stars and, Native American rock art that's hundreds of years old, and just exploring the desert. It's a pretty epic experience. I come back from that, and I've reconnected with myself. My wife says, "You got to go." Every time you come back, you're happy. It's obvious that it makes a big difference in your life. So she encourages me to go every year.
But I think the key here that I want to point out is you're doing it solo. And so many people our age have never traveled by themselves, ever. I'm a huge fan of it. I haven't done it in a long time, but in my 20s, I was like, I'm going to go to Seattle. I'm going to hang out for a week. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take some books and a journal and just drink a lot of coffee and do my thing.
Well, now these days, I tend to go when I go on most of my camping trips and backpacking trips. I do go with a group of people. I've got a bunch of friends out in Denver, so I'll fly to Denver. We'll take a caravan of Jeeps and 4-wheel drives down to Utah and go into the desert together. So it's very much a team effort and a lot of fun. But certainly in the past, I've spent weeks and even months doing it solo.
Can you do you have a favorite story from one of your Utah trips that you'd be willing to share with us?
Oh, gosh. Well, I've got a couple of pretty cool stories from different experiences. One in particular was in Yosemite National Park. I was making coffee, and it was about time for the sun to go down. It was just starting to get dark out, and I was making coffee. And out in Yosemite, they have these big bear containers where you put all your food in. And I had the bear door open, and I was making the coffee on top. And I was with my girlfriend at the time. This was back in the 90s. And I thought I heard her walk up the trail, but I had the bear door open. I was sitting down, so I couldn't see behind the door. And I heard walking, and I said, "Hey, honey," and I didn't hear anything, and I moved the door, and there was a bear right there, like right there. I could have petted on its head, and I freaked out and I screamed like a little girl, and it took off running, and it started to run up a tree. So then that gave me some confidence. So I grabbed a pan, and pots and pans, started banging them together, and then it did run up the tree. Then it ran away, and then here comes another one, except this one's bigger. And that I realized later that was Mama. And I started banging the pots again together. And that one took off running. And right across the little road, the gravel road, there was an RV with its headlights on, and it was shining on a table where they were getting ready to have dinner. And the bear just rips in, starts tearing all the food up, and the lady comes out and she's going, shoo, shoo. Now, I was banging the pot, screaming at the top of my lungs, and she was going, shoo, shoo. It wasn't working, so I went over there and started doing what I was doing again, and the bear ran away. So that didn't happen in Utah. That was California, but it was still quite an experience.
That is awesome. I have had multiple bear experiences as well, because I camp. That just makes me laugh, because it's like in the moment you're totally freaked out, but when you look back you laugh. That's a great one.
Another one, I was in Yellowstone National Park, and I'd been fishing on the Lamar River all day, and I came back to camp, and there was a forest ranger standing at my tent with a double barrel shotgun, and I was like, oh no, he found my weed. And I went up, I was like, what's going on? And he said, well, there's a badger under your tent. You can't go in there. And then he started to explain to me what badgers do when they attack people. And he's like, it'll get you on the ground and it'll start ripping into your skin. And, so these things are nasty. So I'll try to get it away from here and before you go in. And so he's finally scared it away, and it's almost scared me away. That was my last night at that particular campsite.
Wow. Badgers are nasty little creatures. They are not like European badgers are very cute and kind of look like teddy bears, but American badgers just have an attitude. They are grumpy and mean.
So I'm just curious that, when I was in my 20s, I traveled solo a lot. But now that you're a father and you got young kids, are you going to encourage them to take some trips by themselves? And at what age are you going to be willing to encourage them to go? I'm just curious.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, unfortunately, things are a little different now than they were even 30 years ago. So, yeah, I would be a little more concerned maybe than my mom should have been when I was doing it. But, I would absolutely encourage them to do that. And I take my son camping and fishing and all that stuff as frequently as possible. He loves it. And my daughter likes it as well. Not quite as much as my son, but I will certainly encourage them to spread their wings and fly, because it made a giant difference in my life, and it will for them as well.
So what's the next big trip that you're taking your kids on, that you're teaching them those experiences that are important?
Oh, we'll do some type of camping trip here in the spring, locally here in North Carolina. I would love to take them out west with me again. It'll be a while before I do, but we did go out to Sedona a couple of years ago. We did 2 years ago, actually. We didn't camp, but they did get to experience seeing some Native American ruins. We went to do 2 different historical sites, and just had an amazing time in Sedona. So they like the desert, and will certainly want to go back with me.
Imagine that you have a moment where you can talk to people who are your age, who are other free rangers. What's your message to them? What would you convey to them, teach them?
You don't have to have a near-death experience like I did to recognize that every day is a gift. Whether you lose a close family member or a close friend, all of that impacts each of us. And each time that happens to us along the way, we recognize momentarily that life is a gift. And, live that way. Believe it. And live your days like every day is a gift, because it is. Second is, don't let anyone determine your definition of success. not your significant other, your friends, your family, your colleagues, or your educators. Determine your own definition of success because it is yours.
That's beautiful. I think that we tend to look at society and what they say is success, whether that's money or things or materials, but everyone defines success differently, and you have to be true to yourself. That's really beautiful.
In my career, I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm sought after. When I decided that recently that I wanted to change companies, I could have gone anywhere. But one of the reasons why I decided that I wanted to change and do something different in terms of where I worked is I'd been with the same company for 10 years, and we were an awesome little company that got absorbed by a much larger company. And, the culture was gone. It wasn't what it once was, and so I went from being someone who just had lots of great friends and colleagues and people that I could get things that I could call to get things done quickly with, and to being like employee number 18,572. Where everybody's just a number and nobody matters. And here's the thing. We all do matter, and I just, even though I could have gone to work for a larger company, I sought out a small company because in the mortgage business, and there's lots of other industries that are like this. All these giant companies are pounding their chest. You're either going to work for a big company or a big company's going to buy you. That's just how it works. And you know what? That's not how it works. You can determine. Once you establish yourself, you can write your own road. You can go where you want to go, and that's what I decided to do. All these large companies, like I said, pounding their chest, going, you can do this. We're going to give you this. We're going to give you this, making all these promises. I wanted no part of it. So I sought out small companies, and I chose one where I would make a larger impact and have the opportunity to put my head together with other professionals and make things happen quickly. And that's where I am right now, and I love it.
I also love how you start your day in a very similar way than I do. And that you like to start a certain speed. Like I wake up, I get my son on the bus, and then I take my dogs for a long walk. It's my favorite way to start the day. You do something similar too.
I do. And I had my brain hemorrhage in 2018, June of 2018, and right after I started to recover from that, I started walking every day. And over time, I walked more and more and more. And now today, for the last 3 or 4 years, I wake up in the morning, I'll make my wife breakfast and my kids breakfast. I get the kids out to school. My wife takes them to school. And then as soon as they're out the door, I go for a walk. And I'll put in a couple of miles before I ever go and sit down in front of my computer. And then even throughout the day, I do what I call walk and talk. I'll take my phone with me and I'll just go for another walk, and I will call people while I'm walking rather than call people while I'm sitting down, because I want to get as much exercise as possible, and that is a great part of my day.
I'm a walker too, so I think that's a great way to start your day, and especially in the summertime. Mornings are the best time anyway because it's hot and sticky. You don't want to do it in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, it gives you some clarity.
Yeah, some clarity. Oh, I love clarity. Yes. I feel like there's mornings where it's raining and I can't walk the dogs. Like I will walk in the rain, but the dogs do not want to walk in the rain because of the noise. I find that the days where we can't walk, that everything feels off. Like today feels very off because it's raining today. As soon as it stops, I want to get out there and walk, just because it's not just good for them, it gets good for me as well. Don, it's been such a joy to talk to you today. Thank you so much. It's been lovely listening to you. I love the importance of having different experiences and travel and music, and the importance of connecting to emotion and just letting it and being authentic. It's such a joy to hear.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation to talk with you today. I've certainly enjoyed it.
really love Don. Don's such good energy. What did you think, Sass? I know you never met him before.
I never have. He was lovely. I thought there were several points that he made during our conversation that were really impactful. I mean, one was that he's the happiest he's ever been, which I think I would say the same thing about being at this point in my life, that I think that it takes experience to really be happy. And it makes a huge difference. But the thing that really stood out was the living life through experiences, because I think that that's the way I'm living my life too. So I felt a real connection to him. Right.
I love the importance of travel, because that's a big thing for me that, I love to do. And when you get to this stage, when you get to your 50s, you're like, I don't have a lot of time left. I got to use my time wisely. And you realize how precious things are. And now I'm prioritizing, we want to take big trips, but there's also the importance of, like you said, just take a couple of days and just, go somewhere locally or not too far and just camp on the ground for a couple of days. It's sometimes just changing your surroundings just for a quick moment does such wonders for your brain and your heart. I loved hearing that. I loved his hearing his passion. We got to see his face because he's here with us, but that you can see that passion on his face as well about what he loves to do and his connection with music and just enjoying it. And I'm sure when people are younger, they're like, I'm going to make $1 million and I'm going to be on stage. And he's just like, I'm enjoying it. I'm doing it because I love to do it. And it's just lovely to see. And that level of clarity from a fellow free ranger, that someone just has figured it out and just found like, okay, this is my vibe. This is who I am. I'm going to start my day, get my kids off, and then I'm going to walk, and then I'm going to work at a company that values me and makes me feel like I have a voice. And this is the way it should be. So this Don is very uplifting and inspiring.
Yeah, I think so too. I was just taken by how much he enjoys his life. He prioritizes his kids and his values. Those were all very important to him. It just shone from him when he was talking about it.
And I love his big message of, if you're working, how you want to work. I mean, how you want to work. And if your company has changed or they've been bought out, or if it's different and it's not the way it should be, leave. Life is too short to be unhappy. Find that happiness, do it, take care of you.
Yes, I would agree too. I think we have to prioritize what's right for us. I mean, and I think that those conversations aren't always had. And it's obvious that he spent a lot of time thinking about that. Plus, he told funny stories about badgers and bears.
I know. I thought we just love a good bear and badger story.
Well, if you want to hear more stories, maybe not about bears and badgers, but, if you want to hear more stories, then we'd love for you to do all the social media things. We want you to find us on YouTube and on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. Did I say YouTube?
You did.
You need to subscribe. You need to press the buttons. You need to follow us because we want to have a conversation with you. We like talking, but we also want to have a conversation with those of you who are listening. So this week's conversation was about, how are you living midlife? What has changed as you've moved into midlife? We'd love to hear some of your ideas and what's been impactful for you. And thank you for listening, y'all. Thank you for joining us for Free Range Flock. Our goal is to inspire and celebrate who we are, the Generation X kids who grew up and decided to do things their way, with grace, humor, and joy. This has been a production of Sassy Am. If you want to learn more about our podcast, follow our blog, share your positive insights about being a free ranger, or to suggest topics or guests for future episodes, please visit our website at sassayam.com. That's SASSAYAM.com. Keep pushing.